Hey guys, and welcome to the channel. I'm Zmore, the dad in DPS, and today we have some exciting information and exciting things going on. Now, if you are a fan of Frank Herbert's series of books, Dune, then this week has been very, very exceptional and exciting. We had the Dune Part 2 movie that came out, I think it Saturday? I saw it Saturday. So I saw it Saturday. I can't remember if it came out on Saturday, but it's out. And it's an absolutely exceptional movie and has made it's made me want to read through the books again and do a lot more Dune related stuff. And it is just absolutely fantastic. I would heavily recommend you go see it. If you've not seen the first one, obviously watch that first, then watch this one. But yeah, absolutely fantastic movie. But more than that, as a gamer, we've had some even more exciting news, and that is in the form of the Dune Awakening trailer and Awakening Direct. Now, if you don't know what Dune Awakening is, it's a upcoming MMO from the developers of Age of Conan Funcom, and it is based on Dune. And we just got, as I said, the direct where they answered a bunch of questions, spoke about the game, and kind of went a little bit into the information that we've got on the game. And then we had a trailer where we get to see some gameplay. And it's incredibly exciting, and I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. Because of the movie, I want to go back to the books and read through them again and do a lot of stuff. And oh, this is just scratching an itch that I have had for a long while. Yeah.
Arrakis is a test.
Now, a lot of this stuff is from the in-game engine, so
Few.
in theory, how the game's going to look. And granted, there's a lot of desert in the Dune franchise, but if you look at this, it's already shaping to be a stunning game. And obviously, we've got the big fella here. The sandworms of Dune, Shai-Hulud. You're seeing the kind of crafting things, the ability to create bases, vehicles. I mean, there's so many vehicles in this game and so many different things that we're going to be able to use. And obviously, the game's going to revolve around the spice that's on Arrakis and the political intrigue and things like that. And just everything about the Hunter-Destroyer that we saw there. There's so many different little things from the books and obviously now the movies. The ornithopters, the using the voice. I'm just so excited. Everything about this is just scratching that little itch. And we'll talk a little bit about what the developers have said about this game and things that they're intending to implement into it and what we can actually get out of it.
Arrakis is a test. Few survive.
It looks stunning
but the
to me.
humans that do.
And I'm just so excited. I can't stress enough how excited I am for this game. So obviously I was very excited by that trailer, but the direct started off with information about the graphics of the game, how they've came at it from a different approach from what people have seen before, and they're using Unreal Engine 5. Pretty basic standard kind of stuff when you're talking about video games, about how you've forged your world and how you've created it. Nothing too interesting in regards to that, but you know, just boilerplate stuff and basic information. However, where it got interesting is when they started talking about the game mechanics and how you do things in the game. Now, I'm going to talk about leveling first, and essentially what they've stated is that you don't have a class per se. What you do is you start off as a specific archetype. So, for example, you say that you were an Atreides rifleman or something like that. You were taught by the top rifleman in the Atreides faction, or you were taught to be a swordsman or a crafter, or God knows what other options are in this situation. But that's what you start off with. That'll define your starting equipment and your starting skills. However, as you progress through the game and through the world, you can meet other people who can then teach you to do other things. So maybe you can learn the way of the voice, or you can learn to be a swordsman, or you can learn to be, a Fremen. It's a case of you are defined by what you are created in the beginning, but you don't need to stick to that. You can change your character as you go along and learn more things and become more of a jack of all trades. It's hard to say what you're going to be able to do with it, but essentially you're not locked in to a specific class. You can change things up and adapt your playstyle as you play through the game. Now, on top of this, they have stated that there is a leveling system, which would make me think there's going to be skill trees and different classes. Probably a load of class resets, things like that. And you'll be able to maybe pick out what direction you want to go in specific ways, and maybe new skill trees unlock. If there is a leveling system, there must be a max level, so it will define your build, and you maybe can dip into all skill trees at once, or maybe if you go into one, you get locked into it. It's hard to say what's going to be the case, but the fact that you have the ability to change and shape the way your character is and grows would make me think that you could probably dip into a load of different skill trees, but can I be essentially either a master of a certain specific tree or a jack of all trades, master of nothing? It's hard to say, but there is different kind of ways you can go about it at the very least. Now, we do get to see a little bit of the building that's in the game. Now, they have stated that they kind of took some of that from Conan and implemented it in this game, then adjusted it and changed it and made it its own thing. So what we're going to see in the game isn't going to be like a copy and paste of Conan. At the very least, that's what they've said. Whether that turns out to be the true, I don't know. But the base building definitely looks pretty interesting. And on top of that, what they have said with the base building is that essentially if you build a certain structure in a certain way and people really like it and they're interested in it, you can actually sell a blueprint to recreate your structure. And essentially all they need to do is plonk down the blueprint, and then they can essentially build it up on their own and add the resources in. So you can, in a sense, work as an architect in the game and create bases for people that they can then use and place in different places in Arrakis, which is a very interesting concept, because obviously in most games you have people who craft stuff for people and then make weapons, armor, and that kind of thing, and maybe earn money in the game via that way. But this is add the new avenue where you can actually design houses for people in a video game, which I find is hilarious, but also really cool at the same time. Now, obviously, with a Dune game, there's going to be a lot of PvP, and there is faction related kind of things that are going on. You eventually can join the specific great houses that everybody knows about. I'm not going to go into that in too much detail, but you can rise in the ranks, do kind of things, and the Landstrad is going to send down decrees of what they want done. Whether it's spice, like the planet Arrakis has to gather X amount of spice within X amount of time, or these raiders need killed, these merchants need escorted somewhere. You'll get missions like that from the higher ups that tell you where to go and what to do. So it will have your typical MMO mechanics, and whether it's going to run a similar vein to World of Warcraft, where you farm rep for these factions. If you can join all of them, you can join only one of them. It's really hard to say. We don't know what's going on with that yet, but it will be interesting to see. And the thing about what I've always described Dune to people in more recent times, that it's kind of like Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones mashed together. It's got that kind of political intrigue in the Game of Thrones style, backstabbing and all that kind of crap, but the fantasy elements of Lord of the Rings. Overall, it's its own thing, but that's an oversimplistic way of describing it. And I think we're going to see a lot of that political intrigue, because as players, you're going to be able to wage war and do a lot of PvP on each other in different factions and different things. Whether there's going to be specific zones that PvP is enabled, or if PvP is going to be planet wide, very difficult to say. I'm hoping that PvP isn't always on, because that's sometimes more of a problem than a solution to things in an MMO setting. But at the same time, there might be PvP servers, there might be specific areas for PvP. Who really knows the full extent of it? But I'm looking forward to PvP action, because that is a big part of any video game, I find. And the whole idea that you're going to be able to join the factions that everybody knows, once again, like the Harkonnen, the Atreides, the Ordos, or any of the other great houses that they end up popping in, because there's hundreds of them in the books, as far as I'm aware, that I can remember. That not necessarily all are named, but you never know. They might add in some of their own stuff. We really don't know the full extent of it, but I'm looking forward to that. And we do know there is going to be a lot of PvP in the game, and with all the different vehicles that are available, all the different things that we saw in the trailer, it's going to be an interesting thing. Like if we're going to be able to wage full war, like battles on each other or over each other's harvesters, because that has to be a thing. We have to be able to make our own harvesters and gather the spice from the books. Like it wouldn't make sense if we couldn't gather spice. There's also the factor is there going to be any space related stuff, because the, there is a lot of space travel in Dune, but we'll definitely see what's going to happen in regards to that. I'm really excited about the PvP part of it. I really want to know if it's going to be a specific area though, or planet wide, because that would be horrifying. Now, another factor they were talking about is there is a central kind of PvP related area where the Coriolis storms roll in and just reforge the landscape on a weekly basis. So one week you might have a big mountain in the middle, other week you might have a bunch of little mountains around the outskirts and nothing in the middle. This is definitely going to be the kind of end game area where you gather a load of resources and do a lot of your kind of general stuff. Now, the good thing about that is they have stated that it is a focused PvP area, which means you can turn PvP off in other areas, which opens a bunch of questions about base building for me, but we'll get into that in a second. But essentially, this area is going to be the Badlands. It's going to be Rust in the middle of it, where you can build bases and destroy people, take out factions, fight clans, do all these kind of things. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to be all-out war, and as I said about PvP stuff, probably going to be a lot of vehicles involved. But whether this section of the map is going to be something that you load into, or you can actually just fly into and it changes on a weekly basis in real time, that should be really interesting, because it possibly for a couple of hours blocks off with a massive wall of sand and then changes before your very eyes. I'm really excited to see how that is, because the way he made it sounds incredible, but it could be less fancy than what it was made to sound like. Now, as I said with the previous part, that central part of the map is going to be a full PvP area. And it begs a question. Now, when it comes to PvP, I'm going to assume that you can opt in or opt out. But when you enter certain areas, it is automatically enabled. Now, with this being a feature, it kind of makes me wonder how the base building system is going to be, because this is going to be an MMO game. And in an MMO game, you can have thousands of people on any given server, maybe even tens of thousands of people. I don't know how big the server capacity is going to be, but let's say you have 200 people on the server and they want to build a base in location X. Now, if PvP isn't enabled, then you, in theory, shouldn't be able to destroy that person's base. Therefore, is there enough room for different people to build bases in the map? Is there only a set amount of spaces that you can build bases on? Is certain areas instanced where you can build bases outside of obviously the central PvP area? Or, it begs a lot of questions. How do the base building mechanics work in relation to other people? Because in Rust, for example, it's a fight over location. And if you have to fight for your location, but this person doesn't have PvP enabled, then in theory a person could hold a spot for years in a base that can't be destroyed. So the base building system looks great, but it has a lot of questions in my head about how it works and how I could go about settling where I'm putting my base down in the game. It's a minor quibble, and it's probably something they've already thought about, and it's something that's already going to get fixed and made in a way that we can all have fun with it. But it will be interesting to see how they approach that, because if it's you can only build bases in PvP areas, then some people will have fun with it. Some people are going to get absolutely destroyed, because in an MMO server, if you've got 200 people and 150 of them are from the one group, then they're just going to completely steamroll everybody in the server, and you're never going to be able to have a base down. So it's hard to say how they're going to go about this. I certainly think that's going to happen in the PvP area, but if you're able to build outside of these areas, then how is it going to work? And the only way I can think of is if there's certain areas in the game that are instanced, in a sense that unless you're partied up with someone, you won't see them. Therefore, everybody could have a base in the same spot, in theory. But I don't really know. But yeah, that was pretty much just my thoughts on Dune Awakening, and I've been following this game for years since it was first announced. I'm really excited to see that there's more stuff coming out about it, and they're talking about people in the alphas and the betas, and hopefully I'll eventually get a beta key for this game and be able to play the beta, which would make my lifetime. I am so looking forward to this, and I encourage everybody to sign up for the beta and follow on Steam or wherever you can follow it, just so you can get more information about it. Because Dune is a fantastic franchise, and I love it. Either way, guys, like, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you next time.